What do you
Gabe,
got?
are you comfortable saying the words World Series when it comes to this Milwaukee Brewers team now, that they could be a World Series team?
I think now, again, in baseball, things are weird, right? Like, you can get hot at the right time, and, I mean, they've been riding some of that, like Andrew Vaughn. Like, who knew that Andrew Vaughn was going to help carry this team for a week and be part of their 7-game winning streak? I don't know if that's going to continue, because that dude really struggled for the better part of 2 years before getting traded to the Brewers. If they had one more bat in this lineup, they could be looked at as, and I know Jeff Passan said this last week when he was on 𝘾𝘼𝘃. If they had one more legitimate bat, like with power is what I'm talking about in terms of legitimate bat, in the middle of that lineup, they would be looked at as legitimate threats with what they have in the starting staff, the bullpen, and then the lineup. I'm still worried about the lineup being able to come through in a 3-game series, because that's what they would be at right now. They would be a 3-game series, have to play the wild card round. If they can continue to get hot and get one of those buys, man, those buys, that would be huge, because now you don't have that pressure of, all right, you got to win 2 out of 3, otherwise that's it. Now it's, okay, you can win 3 out of 5. You can get to that divisional round.
Do you have to be a buyer, though? Because I'm sure the Cubs are going to do something. I'm sure
there are a lot of teams that would love to buy. And here's the tricky part. Like, Jen, you mentioned the Red Sox. A week ago, the Red Sox were probably sellers. Okay, what are we going to do with Bregman? I mean, he's got an option, but we traded away Devers. That didn't really work out. They were going to be sellers. They were going to potentially sell off some pieces. Then they got hot. Now they're right in the middle of the wild card in the American League. Like,
and Abreu was a bat that people were talking about from the Red Sox that the Brewers could potentially acquire, so that does change that dynamic.
But so that's the problem right now, is with the addition of the extra playoff teams and both leagues being really competitive, there's not going to be a ton out there to buy.
I also think, though, on the other hand, a team no one thought was necessarily going to be sellers, apparently all the Diamondbacks are available except for Carroll. Yeah. So that it's a double-edged sword, and what happens every year is one team no one thinks should be buying is buying everyone they can, and the team that everyone's like, well, I think they're pretty good, ends up being sellers. It's all about finding the right deal and the right guy that makes sense for your squad on literally, it seems like, the week of the trade deadline.
Because, yes, I think teams are going to wait just to see exactly where they are. And in terms of the Diamondbacks, like, Eugenio Suarez is a bat that, dude's got 31 home runs right now. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Is there going to be a bidding war for him? Is that going to get too rich for the Brewers' blood?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, we had talked about CC Sabathia ad nauseum when it comes to the Brewers' history and how they went out and got him knowing he would be a free agent at the end of that season. I don't know if I want the Brewers in a situation like that where they're basically going out and renting a player for the second half of the season, likely not being able to retain them after that. I don't know if that's part of their business model.
Are the Cardinals buyers at 6.5 back?
Maybe. That's why I think it comes down to, like Josh said, that's why it's going to ultimately come down to, okay, what do you do right away out of the All-Star break? Like, teams are going to have to make these decisions, and they're going to wait as long as humanly possible. Because you used to also in baseball have the waiver trade deadline, which was a month later. They've gotten rid of that. So this is the last chance you've got to get a player from another organization unless somebody inexplicably gets cut in the last month of the season.
I hear you that you are pro-buy, Gabe. Are you concerned at all about buying and then messing up the chemistry, the lineup that you currently have? Look, we'd said while you were gone that, yes, Andrew Vaughn's production has been impressive. And I said maybe he can be that bat. Maybe he needed a change of scenery. And so far, he's been delivering. Your hesitancy seems to be that he's not going to be able to keep it up. And I hear that from a lot of people when it comes to Andrew Vaughn. But are you worried at all about you go out and get a guy who then has to play a position that you've got guys who have been playing well at that position, and you start to mess with the chemistry, which, by the way, has been really good for the Milwaukee Brewers over the last few months?
I think guys understand it.
It's
I mean, we did
league.
for remember Robert Brooks goes down the Super Bowl year, and we're like, oh man, what do we do? And then there was talk of bringing Rison in. And Andre, I think he get cut by Cleveland, but there was still that, like, he is going to come in and destroy the locker room, you know? And I forget who the next man up was before Rison got there. They understand.
Terry Mickens?
Might have been Terry Mickens.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns.
But he came in and he was fine. He just, their locker room is strong enough to where if they brought in anyone, players know.
I think we here have learned a very specific message of when the Josh Hader trade happened and it ruined the team. I think the inverse happens when you see your front office decide these guys are good and we want to invest in them. I think it has like the exact opposite effect of it invigorates the team. It gives them a little more juice. Sure, one guy now is not going to have his job that likely was starting or getting more regular at bats.
It's Caleb Durbin.
But all those other guys, the Christian Yelich's, Jackson Chourio, Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick, they all look around and go, they believe in us. Because what they told us the Hader trade year was they don't believe in us.
And I think it's an easy conversation. Let's say third base is something that Brewers fans have circled all year long, and now Caleb Durbin is playing really well there. But if you invested in a power bat there and you were able to get somebody like Suarez, I think it's an easy conversation of, look, Caleb, you're still going to be a big part of our future. You're a young guy. But we had an opportunity to get somebody that does something that you can't do. And that's hit a ton of home runs. Like, we love you. You're still going to get at bats. You're still, because you can play second base, you can play third base. We can rotate guys around. We can be creative and still find ways to get you at bats. But we just looked at this as an opportunity to improve this year's team and take a big swing.
So the only flip side of the coin that Joshy presented, and Joshy, I tend to agree with your assessment, is if the Brewers don't go out and get somebody, then do they interpret it as they don't think we're good enough? Or do you see it as we've got all we need?
Yeah, I think it's more that. I think if you sell and you end up trading somebody away, then people start looking around. But even with they set the franchise record for wins before the All-Star break, so they know that there's good and there's something going on there. I don't think you look at non-action as a negative. I think it's you understand this is a business, the trade wasn't there, we weren't comfortable with the prices. I don't think you totally go the other way and you just look around at the guys you have and say, well, some of us just need to step up.
Well, and honestly, I know everybody, in terms of player acquisition, loves to talk about how the Brewers don't necessarily do enough. They're pretty active most trade deadlines when they feel like they've got a good enough team. Now, last year it was improving on the periphery, adding guys like Aaron Savale, to the back part of the rotation so you could get more innings. Adding a guy like Mark Canha a couple of years ago. Again, that's a periphery move in terms of adding a bat to the lineup. So I expect the Brewers to be active in one way or another because Matt Arnold has shown, whether it's just a small move, hasn't made that big splash move yet, he's going to be active at the deadline if he thinks there's a way to improve the team and give them a better chance for the rest of the season into the playoffs.
A B player, not an A.
Yeah, because, again, I think the A players are going to be, after Suarez, it kind of, again, people thought maybe Bregman could have been available. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case for the Red Sox. Maybe Ryan McMahon from the Colorado Rockies is available, who could be a bigger price because he's got multiple years left on his deal.
What would it take to get like a Bregman? Would it be really?
It's hard to.
His contract is such an interesting one because he's got two options on it worth $40 million each year, and teams don't want to necessarily line up for that.
That's a lot of cash.
Yeah, so that's what it would be complicated to trade him, which is why he's also likely staying in Boston.
I brought it up last week, but the trading the top prospects for rentals thing, that's sort of gone away. In a way where in baseball you used to buy a rental for like your first or second best guy. Now teams are more reticent to give away those guys because they understand the team building thing, and even like the big market teams aren't doing it as much. So I don't think the Brewers are necessarily going to have to give up their number one prospect to get significantly better at a position.
The only way you would have to give up a number one prospect is for a young player with years of control.
Right, like a Acuna or...
Okay, I don't want to get into Brewers Twitter overreacting to a bad, to a trade that was out there. All
right, so before we wrap this up, let me give you some of the names that are on the list of people that the Brewers could go after. You mentioned Abreu of the Red Sox, Ryan O'Hearn of the Orioles, first baseman, outfielder, Taylor Ward of the Angels, outfielder, first baseman, and then we mentioned Suarez of the D-backs. Gabe, rank those four options from most desirable to least desirable for me.
I would go Suarez just because of the power. O'Hearn's he's a good hitter. Like his home run totals,
but it's a rental,
aren't
right?
High. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, he would be a rental. So I'd say Suarez. I'd go O'Hearn, and then Taylor Ward after that.
And no Abreu because you don't think he'll be available.
I don't think the Red Sox are. Again, They made everybody mad by trading Devers when they were competitive. Now they're competitive again. I can't imagine they're going to sell off pieces. I think they would buy at this point more than anything else. Like Ward's interesting because he does have those home run totals. He's up over 20, but the other numbers just kind of don't add up. So there's a lot of swing and miss in there.
800-990-3776. React to, would you go out and get a bat? Here are some of the names that were out there. We just rattled them off. Would you go out and get a bat if you're the Milwaukee Brewers, or do you feel comfortable standing pat with what they have? Let us know. 800-990-3776. You can always weigh in on the YouTube stream as well on ESPN Milwaukee's YouTube stream. We'll take a break here on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. Roll on right after this.
Hey guys, it's Jen from Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. Thanks for watching our clip. I'm sure it was super informative and educational. I'm just kidding. I love those knuckleheads. And we do it live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. on 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you get informed anytime we drop new content.